Dom Farrell, who's the president of 47 brand.
I hate losing a lot more than I like winning. That's for sure. It's all about the people. You know, if you put the people first and you put them in positions to succeed, you know, and they win, you're going to win.
And in the last 3 years, we brought in a bunch of new people. We got about 250 people now. We're doing close to $500 million. If the product is elevated, it has a much better chance of transferring from the arena to the office.
When you're in a division that's doing 600 million, you have a certain perspective on what's important. When you start to get exposure to the 20 billion, you get a completely different exposure to what's important.
Here we are with another episode of How the Fuck Did You Get That Job? Today I got to give a big shout out to Open Fortune. Open Fortune turned the fortune cookie, flipped it on its head, and made it one of the world's most creative ad platforms for marketers to burn their brand into the brain and minds of millions of consumers using this old media, the fortune cookie, which we know and love. They reach 47,000 restaurants in 99% of zip codes, and I've worked with brands like Cars.com, Zelle, Hulu, Chime, and many more. So shout out to Open Fortune for making this happen today. Today, we're thrilled to have Dominic Farrell, president of 47, a global leader in luxury sportswear, joining us today. Dominic's journey started early. At 8 years old, he was more obsessed with the business of sports than the games themselves, even calling the Boston Celtics for a job. It's no surprise that Dom channeled this passion into a robust career in sportswear. As the lead and first ever non-family executive for 47 brand, Dom directs the executive leadership team, shapes strategic objectives, and oversees day-to-day operations. Before 47, he spent over a decade at Adidas, where he held progressively larger leadership roles and drove significant turnarounds and growth. Dominic lives in Boston with his wife and 2 kids. Known for his sharp insights and quick thinking, Dom can talk about the highs and lows of his tremendous career, from leading 47 out of the pandemic to his strategies for future growth in the sportswear industry. So Dom, with such an impressive career, how the hell did you get that job?
How's it going, David? Love the podcast. Great to talk to you today.
Thanks for being a listener, and thanks for getting us on the schedule. We're pumped to talk to you as well.
No, I'm really excited. This job was it's been an unbelievable journey, like as you mentioned. I wanted to be in sports ever since ever since I can remember. I probably gave up on my dream for the NBA way too late in life. I wish someone was a little more honest with me earlier. Like, hey, it's really not going to happen.
At what age did you think like the NBA was a real possibility?
Too old. I probably wasn't playing in my high school team, and I still thought there was a chance. Yeah.
6 months ago, just gave up on it. Well, what about sports drove you to, at 8 years old, you wanted to be in the sports industry, right? What about sports was just that driving factor that got you fired up?
One day I came across watching the Celtics. They were actually terrible at that time in the early 90s when I was growing up. It was awful, but I just fell in love with watching every single game and watching the emotion of it, the excitement of it. It was all I thought about. I actually just found I would keep the transactions in a notebook. It was before the days of the internet, so I just wanted to know everything that was going on. But I was much more interested in the sport of it and the transactionness of it than I was interested in the actual playing of it or the actual game. So it started.
How did you realize that sports really was a business, right? I think when I was 8, 9 years old, I didn't even know that you could have a job in this other than being an athlete, right? What opened your eyes to the business side?
No, what opened my eyes was the transactions and the trading of players. That was where my first interest was, is how do you build winning teams? Because my team wasn't winning. So it's Michael Jordan's on the Bulls. How did he get on the Bulls? And how do we not have that kind of team? So I would deep dive into all of these players on the back of trading cards to understand how they got there. Because that was the only way you could find out how these guys got on teams, is you'd look at the back of the card. Oh, they were here, they were there. Okay, where were they drafted? Where did they go to school? So that's how that was my first introduction into that there was an opportunity outside of just being on the court. And it was actually an opportunity that was more interesting to me than actually playing. Like, if you asked me even in high school, would I rather been a player in the NBA or a GM in the NBA? I would have much preferred being a GM in the NBA.
I mean, you also got a better shelf life at that position.
That's true. That's true.
That's also a thing. So when you go to college, you're still thinking sports? What in sports are you trying to break into, and how are you doing that?
At that point, it was, I had realized that it wasn't going to happen, and I wasn't interested in like coaching or anything like that. That wasn't where my interest was. So then I shifted to like, you look at how did those people get there, the jobs that you wanted. So I would do, this is now we're in the internet days. So I'm looking at, all right, all the GMs and the teams, all the presidents of teams, executives in different, sneaker companies. How did they get to where they got to? How did they get their jobs? And, what I found out at that point, especially, is all the GMs of the teams, for the most part, had played in the league. So that was like a highly unlikely scenario. At that point, I wasn't going to play in the league. And I think at that point, you had like 28 or 30 GMs had played in the NBA. So it wasn't going to be that. So I started to look more broadly, okay, like sponsorship, presidents of teams, sneaker companies, how could I get, adjacent to that and still make an impact in sports? So I went to Bryant University, majored in business, with the idea of, all right, I wanted to eventually find my way into sports. So at that point, I would also I would go to NBA Summer League. It's funny, I was there at NBA Summer League last week. But NBA Summer League used to be in Boston. I would go to NBA Summer League with my resumes and hand them out to GMs or presidents of teams or anyone that I could find. Clearly, I had no success doing that, and I probably filled, my resumes stacked up in the, UMass Boston trash cans. But like I was trying to do anything I could. Like I'd send emails, like cold emails. I would do whatever I could to make an effort. And eventually, it's a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it takes what it takes, right? When you're trying to break into the sports industry, which is a lot of people want to get jobs in there. So the supply and demand is tough. And I lived it and was in sports prior to doing this. I'm curious, what was your first break then? How did you get your foot in the door?
So my first job out of college was at TJX, so the company that owns TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And they take you through this executive development program. And I landed in, then they put you in a department. And they put me in kids licensed sports. So jerseys, basically jerseys and T-shirts. I parlayed that into a job I saw posted at Reebok, who had the exclusive rights for all adult sports license product. They had just gotten purchased by Adidas, and between the two of them, they had all the rights. So I saw a job there. I didn't even know what the job was. It ended up being in sourcing, but it was just within the division that did that, the sports license division. And got accepted, applied online, went for an interview, got accepted, and that was it. It started there. Like I was probably the lowest paid employee in that division, sports license division at Adidas. We had exclusive rights in NHL, NBA, NFL, and MLS, and just started working.
What was expectation versus reality when breaking into the sports industry?
I mean, it's changed over time for me. I think the further you get in your career, the higher you get in the organization, it definitely changes. You do get probably more jaded than you'd like to admit. But it became, it was as exciting as I thought it would be when it started. That's for sure. And it was the education that I wanted to get. I wanted to understand how it actually worked, and then to be able to see how it actually works. You realize it's just like any other business. And I was able to probably gain a lot of my business chops by understanding sports first, and then learning the business as I went along further in my career. But I became responsible for buying all of the jerseys for all of the sports leagues for the world. So anything that came in, I had to buy. Like, if Brett Favre's going to the Jets, all right, do we have enough Jets? How many Jets do we need? How big of an impact do we think that's going to make? So I knew the sports so well that I was good enough. I was really good at that I was able to then learn the business by being adjacent to it earlier in my career.
That's funny you use that example, because I literally remember being in like high school or middle school, and when Brett Favre got traded, and it was like I wasn't even a Jets fan. I was like, I need a Favre jersey though. Like, And was that like, did you use that example because it just, you had a feeling, you knew that was going to be a top selling jersey, even though he was on the Jets for, I don't know, 1 year, 2 years?
No, like it was because I think right before that, he was selling a lot on the Packers. I'm trying to think whether he went to the Jets first or the Vikings first. But whatever it was, whichever one happened first, it was enormous. And we sold like a year's worth in the first 12 hours. And we got orders from all the major retailers at the time.
Yeah.
And it was happening so fast. So it was one of the first really big ones that like, your analysis had to pay off because we sold so much in such a short period of time. There was a bunch of others. When Brett Favre went to the Vikings, I mean, you sold more purple. There wasn't a purple T-shirt in the country available at that point in time. Jeremy Lin on the Knicks is another one. Like there were some at that, just the demand spikes were incredible at that point in time. And it was, I was like 26, 27 years old going through all that. And it was an incredible learning experience. Just that, but I wouldn't have had it if I hadn't known this, all of those, spent all that time on transactions and what was interesting and what wasn't interesting to people at, starting at 7 years old, 8 years old.
And you end up spending 13 years at Adidas, right? What about Adidas was such a special place that made you want to be there, but also stay there?
It was an unbelievable opportunity. I had great people, great mentors that took me under their wing there, and it helped me develop into what I was. I mean, I was getting promoted. I think I got promoted like 8 times in the 13 years. So I was getting promoted like every 18 months. So when that's happening, you're not looking to leave. I was so fortunate to be able to ride this rocket ship from the bottom of this organization to the top. And, a lot of fortune came my way. And, I was very, incredibly lucky to have the right people around me that, saw something and invested in me. But it was just an unbelievable ride. Anytime you're in sports, it's incredibly interesting. I spent all my time really in one division of Adidas, in the sports license division. And was able to really dive deep into it, understand all the nuances and the business, top to bottom, to be able to, eventually take that division over, in my last 3 years there.
What about your leadership style made them want, give you that trust to become the COO of that sports licensing division?
It's about really taking care of your people. What made them, give me any opportunity. They're a wins and losses company. If you're winning, you're getting more. If you're losing, you're not going to be there very long. So I don't know if it was about leadership style or it was just more about results for them. But as it relates just to my leadership style, like it's all about the people, and you have to put the people first. Like people talk about a genuine care for people. Like that is really how I think about it everything I do. And that's what, if you put the people first and you put them in positions to succeed, and they win, you're going to win. And you just have to, put them in the positions to succeed. When they start to get up course, you have to guide them and you have to help them, ultimately be successful. But it is, Adidas especially, it's a results-based business. You're either winning or you're losing, and the winners win and the losers, you're out.
And you're jumping around from Boston, you're in Indianapolis, you go to Oregon. Yeah. What did traveling around the country teach you when jumping from headquarters to satellite offices?
The different perspectives is the biggest part. When you're in, maybe a division that's doing 600 million, you have a certain perspective on what's important. When you start to get exposure to the 20 billion at the time, you get a completely different exposure to what's important, and you understand both sides, and you can understand more of how all the architecture works, how all of it's connected, and why certain decisions are made. And I think that only enhanced my ability or my understanding as I moved on from Adidas of how it all needs to work and how it all has to sing together, because it's not always just about you and your $600 million division. Sometimes it's about the bigger picture. And sometimes when you don't have a visibility of the whole chessboard, you don't appreciate that.
I'm a chess player myself. Funny enough, my birthday was yesterday. My girlfriend got me a very, very nice chessboard. Nice. I saw chess, you brought up chess, and then I saw on your LinkedIn that you have a chessboard. One, do you play a lot? And two, does it translate to the business world?
My son, who's 8, we actually just started playing together. So that's a lot of fun. He's almost as good as me. I'm not good at it at all. But yeah, I do play a little bit. And that's really was, when I put that up, it was a long time ago. It was just, some people are playing chess and some people are playing checkers, and you have to be the one that's playing chess, especially in this industry where it moves so quickly. If you're just playing the game that's right in front of you in the simple game, you're eventually going to lose. And
there you go.
No, I don't like losing. I hate losing a lot more than I like winning. That's for sure.
There you go.
I was just curious, what about the brand for Adidas? Like what were the compelling factors that made you, from Dominic perspective versus Adidas, say like, you have to work with us versus our competitors? Like, was it the brand? Was it certain components that you brought to the table, or was it all just the deal structure? Like, what made it happen over going with somebody else?
So at the time, it was the brand was in a really strong position. The brand wanted to be in U.S. sports. That has always been a challenge for that brand. They go in fits and starts and ups and downs as it relates to, success in U.S. sports, not being a U.S.-based company, especially compared to Nike, who's old, a U.S. headquartered, U.S.-based company. And what we had built at that company in that time, especially in the sports license division, is we had built a really top-notch service organization where if you understand that business, it's, let's talk about Brett Favre at the time. There's going to be an immediate demand for a lot of product, and you need to be able to service it really quickly, within 24 hours in a lot of instances. And what that company was really able to do was they had the authentic rights. They were excellent at serving the consumer, and they were excellent at serving the consumer fast. So that was a differentiator at that point in time for that company. Eventually, Adidas decided they wanted to get out of the licensed sports business and move to athletes. And that was the, when it started to all wind down, and I took over that division, and we did the post-merger integration into, that division into the greater Adidas. It doesn't exist anymore because they just wanted to get out of that and ship to athletes. That's when you saw like James Harden, Dame Lillard, the dollars. It was expensive to have the league deals. So they just decided that they would rather invest that in athletes and not in the league deals. And then the league deals wound up moving over to a variety of different companies.
Before we get into 47, I want to talk about High Alpha as well. You're an investor and advisor there. They're a venture studio that creates and funds B2B companies. Adidas and the companies you're working with before are more B2C focused, even though you were working with the B2B side with selling to stores, etc. What gets you stoked about B2B and just the business models there, making you want to be part of High Alpha?
Yeah, no, they reached out to me to be an advisor to some of their companies, which was really interesting to me to just share insights that I had gleaned over over my career up until that point and still today. So the way that, they call on occasion, they have new companies, they have new ideas, and they want to say, would this work? Wouldn't this work? What are the pluses and minuses of this? How would you, who can you connect us to? And so it's been a really interesting experience for me. You get to learn a tremendous amount. It's definitely, I'm sure, they get a lot out of it, I'm sure, I hope. But I get a lot out of it understanding what the new technologies that are coming in the marketplace are, what's possible. I never was a technologist, by any stretch of the imagination, but having insight into what's possible there, what's coming, AI, Web3, it gives you a lot of really interesting insights into how, what the future of business is. So I love the times that I get to spend with, founders there.
And so, let's chat about 47 brand. Let's talk about your current gig and what got you so excited about them. I know they were had humble roots in 1947, created by two brothers. And I did not know that before this podcast, that they're not an overnight success by any means. But what made that the right opportunity for you?
The COO of their company, who I saw on LinkedIn, left. I sent a note to one of my mentors, is actually there and is still here as the head of sales. And I was like, hey, what's going on over there? He's like, oh, this gentleman just left. You should definitely, talk to the owners. All right. He's like, I'll make a call. 15 minutes later, my phone rang and it was one of the owners of the company. And he said, hey, we've heard a lot about you. We'd love you to come in and chat with us. I said, yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, I'd love to. When do you want to talk? He's like, how about this afternoon? So I went down to the company. It was in the middle of COVID. I don't think I had left my house in like 7 months to go to more than the grocery store. And I sat down. The company was, founded by two brothers. Now, it's owned by four brothers of one of the founders. And we sat down and we talked and we hit it off right away. It was incredible. And, a few months later, I was starting there. Their business, they had real concerns that they were going to go out of business during COVID. There were still some concerns, frankly, when I started that, were we going to be able to make it? But the heritage of the company and what it was pre-COVID was, it was too good of an opportunity to pass up, that if we could get this company to come out of COVID and grow this business, we could really build it into something that, was, above and beyond what it had ever been before. So I started in January of 2021. There was only 30 employees left in the company. They had furloughed all of them or most of them. So it was bare bones. They did, the revenue number was pretty small, and we rebuilt it from that point to where we are today. And, now we're going to do close to, $500 million. We got 250 employees. It's, we're everywhere right now. It's on a ton of new deals. And it's like, it's everything I could have ever dreamed of doing. It's been an absolutely spectacular ride.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a full circle moment as well when you talk about the beginning of your dream to take a sports team, the Boston Celtics that were struggling, right, and turn them into a winning franchise. And it seems like you did that with 47. How did you do that? Right. Obviously, it's a complex example and answer, but what was step one?
Step one was first understanding and appreciating what they had already built. Right. Like, it's at that point they were, 70-year-old company that, was, there was still family involved in it. So it's first understand how they got to where they were, what made the culture tick, what made the organization tick. And then it was about really building and assembling the right team and the right people that were going to be able to have the grit that it was going to take to rebuild post-COVID. Because it was going to take some really, unique skill set to be able to dig in to go from, 30 people to whatever the appropriate amount was that was going to be able to take this company and bring it to new heights. So that was first and foremost, that was all it was. Is first you had to understand the culture, stabilize it. People were not happy. It was COVID. Everybody, in the world felt, or in the company felt aggrieved for some, in some way, shape, or form. And, one of the people who's actually one of our stars of our organization said to me, in my first week, he's like, "We have no vision. This place is miserable and everyone's going to leave." This is awesome. So how do we go from here, and rebuild? And eventually, we got the right people in the right seats. We, started, rebuilding the product to what we thought was going to be right for the consumer of the today. And it's always about the consumer. It's always about what they want. We really focused on digital, telling stories, our own e-commerce. How could we tell really compelling stories for the consumer? And then it was about how were we going to build our international business. And, fortunately, all of those lights turned green and we are where we are today.
Was there anything that you did from a marketing front that hit and then got more buy-in from everybody on the team?
Yeah, it was all about social and social storytelling. Historically, it was just a post and pray kind of strategy. So it was about video. It was about how could we, create really compelling stories, really compelling moments that really got the employees bought in. And once the employees were bought in that we could do something, that was going to transcend anything that had been done before, that's when the momentum really started. And that's when you started to see, the momentum start to happen at retail, the momentum start to happen with consumers, with influencers. We would hope, we have a lot of collaboration partners now. 4 or 5 years ago, we were hoping for a callback from what we would call a C-level collaborator today. And now we have, major brands calling us, and our dance card's just too full. We can't add, A-level collaborators all the time because, we have too many other ones, and we don't want to overdo it. So all of those things combined got the employees on board, which got the, brands to collaborate with on board, which got the retailers on board, which eventually got the consumers on board.
What are the major themes of your storytelling? And if there's anyone that really stood out to you?
The major themes are really connecting to the elevated fan. There's a real desire with consumers today to have elevated product, things that are different. We really try to stay true to our roots. We don't always do a great job of it, but it's about the highest quality product and telling quality stories and how that connects to fans, no matter who they are. Because you have some companies that, as soon as the item is creased, it's, maybe still wearable, but it's not interesting. People don't want it anymore. With our product, it lasts a long time. You buy it forever. And the more you wear it, the more people appreciate it, the more people like it, the more comfortable it gets. You get the patina of it all, and that's what people want. So, we ultimately, we want to be the Rolex of hats and apparel, but definitely in headwear. And we want to, and the stories that seem to make the most impact are the elevated stories, with really high quality products, high quality materials. It's not about the flash. Sometimes our product doesn't translate great online. We have to spend a lot of time on really detailed photography because, when you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. But because it may not be so flashy and loud, you have to see it and touch it to really appreciate it.
It's like a baseball glove. The more you use it, the better it feels, the better it works. I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly.
Right now. That's cool. And then curious,
Exactly.
You mentioned that you guys have been focusing a lot on digital, social for the storytelling. Do you feel like working on digital elevates the brand at all? Are you able to kind of thread that line, or is it more like, hey, that's the transactional side, and then hopefully the social, and that's the storytelling, brand building side? Or do you feel like there's a way to bleed the two between digital and brand?
Yeah, no, we feel like because we don't have our own stores, right? Like we're not a vertical operation, that we see it, the digital side, as if we sell stuff digitally, that's great, and we do, but that's not, it is the goal ultimately, because the goal is always to sell more, but it's about, digital for us is about storytelling. It's about brand building, because it's the only place where we can control the narrative. We can tell the story that we want to tell. We can tell the brand story we want to tell. And, we feel like when people understand 47 story, these two, people that came over, immigrants that came over on the boat, didn't speak any English, once you can understand that story, everybody has an origin story like that somewhere back in their history. And once they understand that, how can they not want to be a part of what we do in the brand story that exists today? So we want to be able to tell that story in a really big way and in a really important way for the company.
When you're talking about your role as president, right? I saw that on LinkedIn. I think president can mean a ton of different things, right? What does your day-to-day look like? What are you most focused on?
For in our company, it's everything, so it all rolls to me. And it's about, it's the first and foremost, it's about our employees, and making sure that they're all, set up for success, that that we're hitting all the metrics across the entirety of the company. We're hitting our sales metrics, we're hitting our margin metrics, we're hitting our profit metrics. Are we investing in all the right places? Are we telling the right brand stories? Are we telling authentic brand stories to us? I think you have to be, in my role, you have to be the keeper of the brand. You have to make sure that the stories that we're telling are authentic to us. People sometimes go and try to tell things that they want to tell that may not be perfect for us, and we need to make sure we keep those guardrails in place to be who we are. And, and then ultimately make sure that we service our partners and our customers, whether it be lead partners, whether it be our retail partners, whether it be our online, direct-to-consumer partners, at the highest possible level. Because there's nothing about 47 that's it's really defensible. We give a lot of people have the same rights that we have. But what we can, we need to make sure that we're the best. We service these people the best, and we make them feel the best, and we build the best product for them. And so as the role of the president, it's about every single one of those things. And, serving all of those. If I serve all of those people really well, then our board, our owners, they're going to be really happy with the results that we get. They're unbelievable. They've been unbelievable to me. It's still a family-owned company right now. And, and serving them is really important to me. I've grown to just absolutely love them. They've been, they're incredible partners, they're incredible supporters. And, I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity they've given me.
You really changed the culture and the buy-in throughout the whole company, growing from 30 to 250 employees and absolutely crushing it right now. There's a saying, it takes a village, though, right? It's not just a one-man wrecking crew that could change everything. Like, was there anyone who is super helpful as like a right hand to you that's bought into your vision early and really hit the ground and got their hands dirty to make this happen?
Oh yes, there's so many people. I don't even want to leave anyone out. But it's not. It really isn't about me at all. It's about those people that we have in our organization that have come in and taken the risk. Because there was no slam dunk. Like when a lot of these individuals started, it wasn't like this is going to be a piece of cake or it's already running. Nothing was running where they were just going to be able to come in and just keep the systems running. Everything was going to have to be a build. And I look at it from our head of business development, who he was actually one of the 30 people. He's been an incredible supporter, with our strategy and going to get our collaboration partners, our head of e-com. Like there was not a lot there. And, we've been able to 4X, 5X our e-com business in the last few years because of the builds that have taken place there. Our head of product and our head of design have come in and been able to completely redo our product offering to make it much more, what the consumers want today. And then some of our back office people, from finance to IT, those people, they're the unsung heroes of the companies that are out there because, nobody sees it, but until it's broken, until it's not working. And, and then it's the biggest fire that you could ever imagine when those functions start to tip over and not work. So their ability to stabilize and build something, we have really clear transparency on what's going on, how our business is operating, and then allowing us to pivot, whenever we need to, has been incredibly important because, it is all about the numbers. It is about wins and losses. And as soon as you see you're starting to lose, you want to be able to have that information at your fingertips as quickly as possible to be able to make a difference and be able to catch those things.
Absolutely. And you've talked a lot about the stories, right? And that you're telling through the brand. What stories that you've told or continue to tell always just really fit right with the consumer and end up driving the revenue goals that you want to hit?
Yeah, it's about origin stories, I think. Yeah, like the origin story of 47 is interesting. Anytime we tell an origin story as it relates to product, those are the ones that make the biggest impact. When we tell fan stories, like in-depth fan stories about people's passions, that's another place where we see, incredible returns. Because that's what, everybody has those stories and everybody can relate to those stories and everybody can feel what that feels like because, whether your team's good or bad, these people ride with these teams, for their lives. So anytime we can tell those stories, that's what I think makes the most difference. And these kind of rags to riches stories are other ones where, it's not necessarily about the athlete, but it's about the fans.
And when you're talking and really pushing and innovating on women's sportswear, I know you want to move away from the shrink it and pick it method, which I love. Like, how did you approach that sector of your business?
It's one that we're still working a lot on. Like we have in no way, shape, or form solved for that. Like we're calling 2025 the year of her, and it is about making sure that the female consumer has really high quality products that fit. And it's not going to fit everyone, but really, that we want to be able to create a wide enough offering that it covers, the needs of all of her consumers. Especially with headwear, that's a lot easier to do than with apparel. And what we've found is the female consumer tends to really lean to our product. And we need to do a much better job and continue to do, we have a tremendous amount of the female consumer. So it's not that we don't, but we need to do a much, continue to be able to tell compelling stories for her, create, product that is specifically built for the female consumer and explain, how it works. or not how it works, but why it would be, why the fashion is right, and make the fashion right for what's happening.
I had a podcast guest on probably like 2 years ago, but his name is Asaf Swissa. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He runs a company called Super Digital. He great ad agency. They do all of Julian Edelman's content, and kind of he's the guy who created Julian Edelman's brand. And he was so adamant about building Boston as a business hub. And because it isn't known as the biggest business hub, like it's not New York, it's not LA, right? It's not Chicago, but how does being in Boston play into not only your stories, but your success as a company?
Yeah, I mean, Boston definitely, like, there's a lot of brands here. There's a lot of innovation happening. It's a very gritty place. So I think when you're hiring someone from Boston, you're getting, in a lot of instances, you're getting the grit of, a gritty employee, an employee who's not afraid to dig in, and brands that aren't afraid to dig in. There's not a lot of glitz and glamour about Boston, but there is, there's a certain characteristics of the people here that make it a really interesting place to build brands and to be able to, expand and grow, what the offerings are, because it is a place where the people are really unique and they're really special.
Absolutely. He said the same exact words, gritty.
Oh, God, I'm glad it's consistent then.
That makes sense though. Being, knowing the people that we know in Boston, being there a couple times, like, I can feel that.
Yeah, there's an intensity. There's an alpha intensity and a grit to it all in Boston.
Yeah, and it's different than New York too. There's something different about it. They're both gritty, I think, but there's something different about Boston. I agree.
New York's got the glitz and glam.
Yeah. It's great with
New York's got Fifth Ave, Park Ave.
Yeah, New York got a little more glitz and glamour, and Boston's, New York's the biggest, a lot of people, like, it'd be difficult for me to say it's not the greatest city. So everyone in Boston is a little egregious, got a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder because, if you're in New York, you're the Yankees, you got 27 World Series. If you're in Boston, like, you went, 86 years without one, you feel a little egregious and a little second class. So you got a little more chip and aggression.
The challenger city.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's something out of the box? Like what's a play that maybe 47's done or plan to do that's just out there, right? To cut through the noise and be a brand that stands out. Your storytelling, totally get it, makes sense. Is there something that you've done or the company's done over the past couple of years that you're like, that really transformed the way that people look at it, or just made an incredible amount of noise? Is there anything that stands out for you out of curiosity?
There's something that really stands out that's been so disruptive. I think what has made the biggest amount of noise or the biggest, benefit for us is what we've done really on the celebrity influencer side. We don't pay for anybody. We don't pay. If somebody calls, we'll send product. But we won't. We don't pay any endorsers. That's not our business model. But what has made I think an enormous amount of difference is the amount of celebrities, the amount of people you see wearing 47 just in the wild. And that's not something necessarily that we've done by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that we've been adopted by so many people in the last few years. It has made such an impact for our business. We're incredibly grateful for it. And all we can do is be grateful for it. Because once it's just not what we do. It's not how we spend our money. But we're incredibly grateful for all of the people that support 47. And we get every email when someone's out seen wearing it, the New York Post or whatever. And it used to be like once a month we get one. Now we get it, 5 times a day of it happening. And that has made it, I think when people see that, they want to be a part of that culture. And, we've been very fortunate with that. But I wouldn't call it, anything that's crazy innovative. We have some things coming that are pretty disruptive. But that's probably, in the next 6 months, not in the past couple of years.
And I want to dig into your personal life a little bit, just being a father. How has that impacted you and your life?
It's the greatest thing ever. I have 2 kids. They're 8 and 9 years old. It's like we're best friends. It's spectacular. But the one thing about it is, for me, you can't be great at everything. There's only 2 things I want to be great at. I want to be like the greatest dad I can ever be, and I want to be great at work. I think, some people are like, oh, you can have it all. Like, I don't actually think you can. Like, I'd love to lose 20 pounds and I'd love to have friends. I don't have friends and I don't work out. Like all I do is work and be a dad. And like, I love that. And, having, doing stuff with them and giving them experiences and new opportunities, to see different things is, something I just so grateful.
Dom, I can so relate to that. I have 3 kids, 11 to 5. I coach every sport imaginable under the sun, even though I promised myself I wouldn't. And David, the other day, he mentioned it was his birthday, and he goes, yeah, we're going out. He's got 24 friends. I'm like, 24 friends? How do you have 24 friends coming out with you for your birthday this weekend? I don't have that anymore. Like, how did that happen?
I also don't have kids.
I don't think I could get 2.
Yeah, I'm like, and I'm scheduling them all together? Come on, it's impossible.
My kids are my best friends. My kids and my wife. That's it.
That's it. That's all. That's everything, man. I get it.
So before we get into the quick question round, going to open up one of these fortune cookies, see what's inside, and see if it relates to our episode at all. All right. We got change can be scary, but necessary. And then on the bag, we got cars.com.
I like it. I think
I agree. Do you agree with that?
I think that's like, it couldn't be more spot on. Like, that's in your career and everything. Like, change is scary. Like, I do not like it. But the biggest opportunities come from change. So you have to embrace it, because that's usually when the big opportunities come.
Being at a point of discomfort creates change, and that change.
Exactly.
Well, shout out Open Fortune for making this possible today. Person you'd most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive?
Alive, Bob Iger. Dead, Abraham Lincoln.
Favorite city in the world?
Rome. I studied abroad there. It's spectacular.
Is it okay to sleep with socks on?
It's okay, especially in the wintertime, but not just socks.
Oh, man.
I don't do it, but it's okay.
Disappointed me, Dom. It's not okay. It's not, under no circumstances. Dom, I actually sneak into my son likes wearing socks to sleep, and when he goes to sleep, I sneak in, open up the covers, take the socks, throw them in the hamper, walk out. Not okay.
My son actually likes wearing socks in bed too, but I don't take them off. That's how he always been. It's all right.
Here we go. Dom, I knew we were going to get along, so great. Favorite rom-com?
Failure to Launch.
I haven't seen that one. I need to watch it.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I like The Holiday too, but I like Failure to Launch. It was fun. It was a good one.
It's a good one.
Best spot to eat in Boston?
Any place that has bolognese. Anywhere in the world, actually. Like, it's all about bolognese for me. In the North End, wherever, like, I'm a bolognese connoisseur. Anywhere I can order it, I do.
In 40 years, what will people be nostalgic for?
The days before the internet, and when they could drive cars. Because you're not going to be able to drive your own car, and you're going to wish life was more simpler.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite Bryant graduate?
When I was there, Jack Welch came, and his head of HR went to Bryant. They were incredible speakers, so I'm going to go with them.
Top 3 CEOs right now, or presidents, head of companies.
Iger is one for me. His book was spectacular. Like, takes care of his people. Absolutely love him. Rick Hendrick, who he's a huge in the car business, like huge, owns a ton of dealerships, has some race teams, like also like built something from nothing. He'd probably be number 2 on my people to have dinner with right now. And then Warren Buffett built something over a long period of time. Also, built it mostly from scratch and has been able to really stay true to his roots.
One thing people don't understand about your job is blank.
That there's a new problem every single day in areas in which you have no idea how to solve them, but the buck stops with you. You have to solve them, and you got to dig in and figure it out. And it's an everyday, in every area issue.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
If you can outwork 99% of the people, and that's how you get to the top 1%.
What's the worst advice you've been given?
That the smartest people win. Because I'm not one of the smartest people, so that was pretty disappointing when I heard that. And my IQ is definitely not in the top 10%. It's probably not in the top 50%. So that is just not true.
In one sentence, how do you sum up the internet?
Access to information.
That's a good one. I like that. Who's somebody you think should hop on this podcast?
Zion Armstrong was the head of Adidas for a long time. Incredible people leader. He would be, he's not in sports anymore. I think he's doing something totally different, but he's a spectacular interview, and he's a great person.
I'll definitely reach out to him. And lastly, in 10 years, you could catch Dominic Farrell blank.
Oh, well, hopefully running 47. But if not, I would hope to be, either, still in sports, running a major sports team, or figuring out how I'm going to run for president of the United States. It's going to be one or the other. Sometimes you have to speak it into existence.
Well, Dom, that was awesome, man. Appreciate you sharing your story with the audience and taking the time out of your busy day.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Love the podcast, and wish you guys best of luck.